The roadmap to retirement we're building today is for a couple in Charlotte, North Carolina. She's a pharmacy manager and her partner is a restaurant manager. Collectively, they earn $145,000 a year. That's gross. And they're homeowners, they're married, they've got 2 kids. So that's who we've got today. And just like last week, and I think a good flow for this every time is that's just kind of the general context, but let's look even closer at their financial landscape and see what they have going on debt-wise, savings-wise, and investing-wise. Because how we craft this budget is going to largely depend on these things. So we'll jump right in here to their debt snapshot. And so not a whole lot of debts here. No student loans, no auto loan, but we do want to walk through these. All right, 2 credit cards here. First one being a Bank of America card. The balance on that one is $2703.50. This is a 0% interest rate right now. It's one of those promotional things where you've got a 0% rate through a certain time frame before that interest kicks in. And this payment, this is well beyond what they have to pay, but biweekly, which is how often she's paid, biweekly they're making this $336 payment. All right, so they're really getting after that. They determined this is what they need to pay in order to get this thing paid off before the interest rate bumps up. So it's a good thing. They've already figured that piece out. I like it. With that pace, it'll be paid off by May 2025. They've got a Chase credit card. This one has an interest rate more like what we're used to seeing, between 20 and 30%. The balance there is $19.15. So if they only ever make the minimum payments for that, which that's $90, they wouldn't have that paid off until December 2026. But you guys know, because you've been with me, that we're going to crush this credit card debt as soon as possible. And then we've got their mortgage at $312,000. All right, and this payment here for their mortgage, that is without the escrow payment, so the interest and the, not the interest, property taxes and homeowners insurance. All right, so there's a lot that goes into a mortgage payment, but this is just kind of that base piece that has determined the loan payment. Okay, let me scroll up for just a second. Okay, so we have a question, perhaps a stupid question. No such thing. If you use your credit card for everyday expenses, but pay it off each month, where do you capture that? So that's a pretty common question. It's a very good question. And the idea there is to track your spending during the budget and be sure to indicate somehow to yourself in your app or your spreadsheet or in your planner that it's a credit card transaction. Make sure you're paying those transactions off before you close out the budget. So really there's no need to record it like in your debt snapshot or other areas of your tool that you use, because the idea is that you're swiping in that pay cycle and then you're paying off in that pay cycle. So to your budget, they look like debit card transactions. They look like checking account transactions, but you're doing that a little extra legwork to make sure that it's paid off before you go into the next budget. Okay, excellent question. I get that one a lot. So keep them coming. If you have questions as we go, please drop them in. I'll do my best to stay on top of the comment section. There is their mortgage, and that would be pay off August 2046. Now, this top payment I mentioned is biweekly. When we do the math to figure out what that averages out monthly, and then we add these two, we're at $2518-ish per month in debt payments and a total debt balance of $316,618 and some change. All right, but just to summarize here, nothing too crazy. We have those credit cards and they're already doing what they need to do with this top one to crush that before interest becomes a factor. But that second one needs attention. It's there. The interest rate is going to crush them quickly. And if they try to invest aggressively while they're paying off this card, I call that hustling backwards. Because you're not going to earn in the stock market, you're not going to out earn this debt. You're not going to beat 23% in the stock market, generally speaking. Okay, so we've got to crush that. So those are their debts. Let's go forward to the master bill list, and I'm going to zoom out a tad. This is where we want to list, okay, what are those things that we need to pay each month? And which of those are needs? Because the needs are going to help us calculate how much our emergency fund should be. You might look at this list and think, okay, that seems kind of short. Let me fill you in on a little bit more. In her questionnaire, she mentioned that what you'll see later in the budgets is her income. Her spouse contributes $700 per paycheck, so biweekly, to the household budget, to the household expenses. With that in mind, it started to make a little bit more sense that most likely there are some things that he's covering that aren't listed here. So for example, I didn't see cell phones. I'm thinking that we didn't go into depth here, but I would assume that he's probably covering some of the bills and maybe even like splitting payments on some of these, because this looks like a pretty low water bill. So I don't know the full intricacies of that, but I do know how much she earns and what he contributes, so what he sends to her to cover these household expenses. And you'll see that in the budgets. But it makes this make a little bit more sense, the fact that it's a short list. We've got their Chase credit card minimum payment here. They are making biweekly mortgage payments, which I think is just fantastic. If you're paid biweekly, so for example, every other Friday, every other Wednesday, whatever it might be, you're already in a great position to take advantage of the biweekly mortgage payment hack. I mean, I think it's safe to call it a hack, because what you're doing when you're paid biweekly, that's 26 paychecks a year. If you make 26 mortgage payments in a year, and they're just half payments every time, you actually end up making 13 payments in a year instead of the typical 12. And that additional payment slashes thousands of dollars in interest off of your mortgage over the life of the loan, and you pay it off earlier. So it's worth calling your lender, figuring out what your payment options are, seeing if a biweekly payment might be an option for you. Because hey, if you're already paid biweekly, to me, it just makes sense. It balances out your budgets, okay? Because that mortgage payment tends to be like the heftiest thing in the budget usually. It balances out your budgets, and it already aligns with when you're paid. So I think it's a great thing that they're doing that. So I've got that listed here, and that's a need. Their Bank of America credit card payment, I mentioned that they are paying like $330 every paycheck. So we've got to do a little bit of math there to figure out what that averages out to monthly. Of course, this is way higher than they have to pay. So when I calculate their needs for an entire month, I'm going to use the figure of 50. So that's what this is here, because they're paying well above that. But the reason this need column matters so much is because we're going to add up all these ones that are checked as a need. And that total of all those added together helps us determine what our emergency fund should be. Helps us set our emergency fund goals. So we've got their bills here that she pays on these dates every single month. Biweekly mortgage payment, credit card payment. They cover weekly lawn care. This is obviously not a need, so I didn't check it. This is rather high in my opinion for weekly lawn care. So this would be something that I would, if I were sitting across the table from them, I would say, let's look at this, because this seems pretty high. Okay, can we browse for other services? Can we minimize those services? Just really making sure that they're using this full 160 and that it's worth that to them per week for lawn care. So that one draws my eye. We also want to capture here on this worksheet variable spending, which would be things like food, transportation, pet costs, right? Tolls, things like that vary month to month. We call those variable expenses. We give monthly estimates here on this worksheet. These are all needs. Okay, we've got to have food, got to be able to get around. So, like I said, adding up all of those ones that are checked as a need. And when we crunch those numbers, we're at about $5,400 a month in necessary expenses, like their core non-negotiable, have to pay, have to cover costs, about $5,400. They have done a good job of saving for their emergency fund. They've got $11,350 saved in their emergency fund. That's fantastic. Okay, there's still a little bit of work to do. I mentioned that they've got kids. They own a home. They're married. So we need to continue nourishing the emergency fund, but they have set a goal in her application. She mentioned 20,000 is where they'd really like to be. I agree with this. I think even once we get there, maybe even considering bumping it up a little bit, but I like this as a round even goal to focus on as we look towards the end of the year and at 2025, what we can do. So this is the emergency fund worksheet, figuring out how much should be in there. Like, how do we even calculate that? Well, this is what this 2-page spread is really helping us do. So this would give them about between 3.5 and 4 months of expenses saved, getting to that 20,000 mark. Okay. Savings wise, this is the savings bucket tracker where we can set goals and monitor the progress of multiple savings efforts simultaneously. We just spoke about the emergency fund on the previous page and how they've got a good starting point for this. This is the only bucket that they have, though. And you already know, if you've been with me, if you're a homeowner, the first bucket I'm going to tell you that you need after your emergency fund is home maintenance. This will come into play. This will be something that you need if you own a home. Whether it's the simple stuff like refrigerator filters and AC filters to the bigger stuff like plumbing, roof work. Like, I mean, it will become applicable. I don't care who you are. So we need to have home maintenance as a bucket. And sometimes I get the question, well, how much should I put in there? A good rule of thumb for the home maintenance bucket is 1% of your home's current market value being set aside for maintenance costs every year. Okay, so a $400,000 house, let's save $4,000 that year for home maintenance and just keep it going, keep growing it. Okay, 1% of the home's market value. They also have cars, so I would like to see car maintenance. And this one can really be broad. I know for us personally in my home, car maintenance, that also covers like annual registration, even though that's technically not maintenance. I kind of lump it all together. Of course, you can get as specific as you want or general as you want here, but at a minimum, we need to have these 2 buckets added. And these are high priority buckets to set up. And then she mentioned that they do want to get a vacation fund going. And they've got a goal there of $10,000. So I'm sliding over because on the far right of the worksheet, we're going to put the goal here. Okay. We can put, let's see, home maintenance, 3,000. Car maintenance, that's going to depend. How old is your car? Have you been keeping up with the oil changes, things like that? And then we talked about the emergency fund on the last page. Okay, $20,000. So the idea here with this worksheet is that you're naming your buckets, you're setting a goal, and then you're going to come through here and you're going to set up a plan to save throughout the year to reach this goal. And then throughout the year, you're keeping track of, well, what did we actually save? This is what we planned to save, but what did we actually save? And then what did we spend from that bucket? Because naturally, you're going to pull money from the home maintenance bucket to use it for certain things. And you're going to add some more and pull back, add some more. So any savings tracker that you're going to use, it can't just be save money and then use it. It's never that simple, right? You also need to track that movement in and out, because you're probably going to pull from these ongoing buckets. You are going to pull from these ongoing buckets over time. So you need what you budget to save, what you actually save, what you spend, and then just keeping track of the balance. That's how this worksheet flows. And it's the exact same in the Google Sheet. If you don't want to crunch the numbers yourself, you can use a Google Sheet. It's splendid. But at a minimum, these would be the first 4 for them to set up based on what she sent in her application. Okay, we've got another tracker there if we need it, but we're going to jump forward now to talk about investing. We've got their debts now. We know they've got a couple credit cards. They've got their mortgage. Savings wise, they only have one bucket. It's going okay, but we can get some new ones going. I'm going to use this notes section here on the annual investing tracker to give you an idea of what they got going on investing wise. Zoom in. So here is their situation. So she is investing $334.47 per check to her 401k. Again, she's paid biweekly. There's a 4% employer match involved. We love to see that. She is also contributing $150 per check to a Roth IRA. Beautiful. So she's paid bi-weekly. If we want to try to get the numbers to figure out, well, what does that average out to per month? What that comes out to, and we're also going to include this employer match here, comes out to about $1,532 per month is what she's investing right now. Okay, well, she is 41 right now. She's 41 right now. With these numbers and the fact that her Roth IRA is at, I want to say about 5,200, and her 401k at about 80,000. In some cases with the applications, I do have to fill in some gaps myself. So we had 85,000 in the 401k and 5,700 in the Roth. So with those current balances of about 92,000, 91,000 already invested, and then she's doing this, here's what we'd be looking at. She could retire at 67. Okay, she's 41 right now, so we'd have to keep this going for 26 more years at this pace in order to have $6,000 a month pre-tax until she's about 85. So that's a life expectancy about 85. Okay, it's probably not what she wanted to see. And sometimes I know crunching these numbers can feel a little bit like, whoa, is that really right? $1,530 a month being invested. She's in her early 40s, and there's about 90K already invested. So I just like to paint a picture of like where things are currently and how we can make changes to retire earlier, get something going. What would it take to retire earlier? I also mentioned in the very beginning, and it's there in the pinned comment if you're here with me live, that they have 2 kids, 13-year-old and a 5 or 7-year-old, if I'm not mistaken. And she mentioned wanting to invest in 529s for them. You're going to see as we get going with these budgets that because of this situation and likely wanting to, I mean, she's not a client, I'm not sitting across from her asking her, when do you want to retire? But I'm willing to guess if she could, she'd probably want to retire before 67. That's going to mean that we need to press on the gas with investing to make that happen. And the 529 investing probably wouldn't be as great as high as she would like, but it's because we have to emphasize our retirement before our children's futures. Okay, and if we're talking, should I contribute to my retirement or should I, grow a UTMA or a 529? Well, let's focus on us first and then invest for the kids so that our kids don't become our retirement plan, right? We don't want that. Okay, so that paints a much better picture of what they have going on, and it greatly influences how we set up their budgets. I will pause here because I'm running 2 giveaways just like I did last week. And this time I prepped a couple of, let me see if this works. Oh, how funny, the little picture thing is on the wrong side. That's okay though. Hopefully you can read what's here. So the first giveaway, this one you have to be live here with me to enter here on Instagram Live. We did the same thing last week, but here's how it works. I'm going to put a word in the comments of this live. Okay, so you're only going to see this if you're here with me right now. And what I need you to do is DM me this word. Okay, after the call closes, DM me this word, and that will enter you to win a copy of the Mosaic Wealth Planner for Google Sheets, which is the digital counterpart of this planner that you're seeing me use. But really, it's an automatic budget builder. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So I commented that word. If you DM that to me, you are entered to win the Google Sheet in the design of your choice. It comes in a minimalistic design and then in a botanical design. So you'll choose which one you prefer. So you're entered to win that. All right. So make sure you're watching that comment section so you know what that word is. The second one, nice, they made this so much easier to do. Here's the second one. This is a monthly giveaway. I'm going to run this until the end of the month, and I'll announce the winner on the 1st of October. This video is going to hit my feed after we go live here, assuming no technical difficulties. It'll go onto my feed, and you can comment below it there. If you're watching this on YouTube, comment below the YouTube video with a goal that you have that you want to reach by the end of the year, and you'll be entered to win a $100 e-gift card. So that's the second giveaway. I announced that one for the first time last week. We're going to keep that going and give more folks a chance to enter. Again, this second one, you don't have to be live for this one because it's based on when this video is on my feed or on my YouTube channel. Comment with a goal that you have, you want to reach by the end of the year, and you'll be entered to win a $100 gift card to be announced on October 1st. Beautiful. Okay, so those are the two giveaways. Let me see. Awesome. Much better. So now you guys could actually see what I was saying as I did that. So that's a better way to do that for the giveaways. Now, we want to jump over to the budgets. So I am using the spreadsheet in conjunction with the planner because I think having both is just fantastic. And we are going to walk through a couple budgets. A couple I've already prepped, and then so I'll walk you through those a little bit faster. But these first couple I want to build with you live here. So you can see this is the framework that I've built to multitask our money and get after things in a winning order. It's called the 8-part budget. She's paid bi-weekly. All right. So here's one pay cycle from her payday to the day before she gets paid again. We're going to budget by paycheck. It's the most efficient way to do it. And we're going to start with the income block. So here's her take-home pay, $37.90, $78. And then I mentioned that he contributes $700 every paycheck to help cover those household expenses. So together, we're about $4,500. Okay, zooming in on the YouTube side. There we go. Now, we first want to make sure our needs are met. We want to cover our expenses. So that's this first block. On the 13th, when she gets paid, she's going to make that biweekly mortgage payment. I'll just put mort for short. $1,268.58. She's going to cover internet on the 15th at $60. Lawn maintenance, $160. Life insurance, $57. Netflix. Again, we're only listing those bills that fall between these dates. That is what it means to budget based on when you're paid. Netflix is $16.61. Lawn maintenance again. Again, they pay lawn maintenance weekly. So we're going to see this come up a few times in the budgets. And then we've got the Chase minimum payment of 90. That's that first credit card. And then they've got that zero interest Bank of America card that every paycheck they make a nice size payment to so that it's paid off by May before interest hits. These are their fixed expenses. We also need to list their variable ones, food, gas, things like that. Dining out for approximately a 2-week period, $250 as a family of 4. Groceries, $350. Fuel, so $75. Pet costs, $25. Kids activities, $50. Supplies for the house, $125. And finally, you guys know I always put a cushion because we're gonna task every dollar in this budget. We're not gonna leave anything to chance. We're gonna make a plan completely. All of these expenses added together, 3,223,54. So here's the income we're working with. We subtract this guy. What we're left with as we proceed in the budget is $1,267.24. All right. They need to continue growing their emergency fund. We're not quite done there. So given the fact that they need to grow their emergency fund and they have a credit card that they really need to pay off ahead of schedule, that Chase card at about $1,900, we need to crush that ASAP. But we're not going to neglect the emergency fund. We're still going to give it attention. It's the highest priority bucket that we have. We're going to put $250 there. And that'll leave $1,017.24. We're going to keep it going. We're going to make an extra payment. Block 3 is extra debt payments, not the minimum payment. Payments beyond that to accelerate the payoff ahead of schedule. $760. It's going to leave $257.24. All right. I mentioned that she is auto investing every paycheck into a Roth IRA. If her credit card situation were dire and we had like a $10,000 credit card or multiple credit cards of even moderate balances, I would say turn this off. Turn it off. Invest only up to the match in your 401k because that's part of your compensation package, but don't do more than that. If their situation were more dire with the credit cards, but we can get that credit card paid off very quickly. So we're gonna keep this going. But that's something to think about. If you've got a lot of credit card debt, the interest rates are there. It does damage really quickly, and it does a lot of damage. So investing needs to slow down while you pay off the cards, and then you can resume that aggressive investing. Okay, so 107.24 left as we go into the savings block. In this particular budget, we're not going to nourish those other buckets. She's got home maintenance, car maintenance, and vacation. We're not quite there. I mean, we could, but if it were me prepping this entire budget, I'm going to jump to, she does give, she emphasizes giving. That's a 5, so that's 50. That would leave her 57.24. And then a couple options here. This is the family investing / giving. So those 529s that she wants to open and start pouring into, they would normally go here. And if she's saying to herself, look, we've already got money in the budget for activities with the kids, we're okay. We're not looking at like a date night or anything. We're ready to just put our heads down and focus on the debt and getting that gone. This would remain blank. Okay, so this would be for like family trips, date night, things like that. It's kind of that fun money for the household. Okay, that's what I mean by joint. But she looks at it and says, well, we don't really have anything like that. And I also don't need personal fund money. Maybe she says, I don't really have like a hobby that I want to put funds towards. Like, I'm fine. I'm good. I don't need that extra money. Then she could put that 57 and just put it across 529s for her kids. Okay. It's not a lot, but it gets that going if she wanted to. That's an option. The way that I wrote this was giving her a line at the bottom for her to just have a little bit to herself for that 2-week period, whether it's for hobbies or something she might want to do with a friend. That is how I wrote it. But with, deeper conversation, and if she were a client, we're going to figure out what's important to you. What's important to you? What's important to your family? Okay. And it becomes a richer conversation then. But on the surface, this is how I would prep September 13th through September 26th. Aggressive towards that credit card. We're not going to neglect the emergency fund. But notice how I did this in order. The 8-part budget is already in order for you so that you focus on the right things at the right time. Don't jump from bills to date night. No, stop and look at your emergency fund health. How is it doing? Does it need more attention? Do you have high interest debt? All right. Then you look at investing and saving. Then you look at investing for your kids. And finally, towards the bottom, blocks 7 and 8, I call it the fulfillment portfolio. It's like that fun money. Those things that matter to you. Could be travel. Okay. It could be renting a camper. Looks different for all of us. Could be concerts. But just making sure that we're doing it in order. Okay, so that's what I would do for that chunk of September. Then we have September 27th through October 10th. We're going to do this one live, and then I'll show you a couple that I've already prepped, and those will go faster and you'll be able to see more in a shorter time. I know it takes me a minute to write through, but hopefully it helps to see at least a couple fully done out. We have her take-home pay there, and then we have his contribution of $700. So again, $44.90, $78 to work with in this budget. I think I jumped to we're not to October yet. We're on this one. Now, September 27th, biweekly mortgage payment. I'm just going to write mortgage. $12.68. Is it 58? Yep. Electric/gas. At $500. See if you guys can see that. That's October 2nd. October 2nd as well, we have a lawn maintenance charge. That is a weekly expense that they cover. I think it's worth looking at a little closer. Make sure they're really getting what they want out of that cost, because it's pretty high in my opinion. That's probably the one thing in their budget that makes me look twice. Auto insurance, $167. We have another lawn maintenance charge on the 9th. And then we have that Bank of America payment that they make to get the 0% interest card paid off in May before interest hits. Those are their fixed expenses. Now we got to cover variable spending. Dining out, $250, groceries, $350, fuel, $75, pet costs, $25, kids activities, $50. These are things that can change month to month. They're just kind of an estimate of what you would spend in these areas. And when you're initially budgeting, this is household supplies. When you're initially budgeting, it can be hard to know what to put in these figures. And that's where I recommend either reviewing your bank statements for a month and adding together similar costs to see what should go here, or track your spending for 30 days to see what's typical for you. Okay, the entire back of the planner, letting me zoom out. There's a back section of the planner that is just expense tracking. So you would log your spending for 30 days and figure out, okay, what's typical for us in the areas of dining out? And then adjust it to the length of the pay cycle, which is what we've done here. It's about 2 weeks. Okay. That's their expenses block for September 27th through October 10th. When we add all those up, 36, 96, 93, leaving 793.85 as we proceed in the budget. Just like you saw me do in the first half or the first September budget, we're going to keep nourishing the emergency fund. It's in a good place. Okay, we do have high interest debt to tackle, but we're not going to just ignore this. Still about $550 to work with. Extra debt is next. We're still not done with that Chase card. This is an extra payment beyond the minimum to the tune of $300. All right. The Roth IRA, I wouldn't be mad if what they chose to do for September was turn off these auto contributions for a month and put $300 towards the credit card. Wouldn't be mad at that, but we're crushing this credit card by the next month, so I'm okay if it stays here. The credit card's not going to do too much damage in that time frame while we're paying it off ahead of schedule. But if they're really determined and they don't mind a little bit of extra work to turn things off and turn them back on their online accounts, this could be turned off so that we could do even more here. All right, again, not quite ready to nourish those savings buckets yet. We're going to get to that in the later part of October. She does emphasize giving. We're going to put that here in block 6. Leaving $43.85. And again, she can make the call. Do we want to send a little bit to a couple of brand new 529s for her kids? We could do that. If there's something they're going to do together as a family, that would go here. Or she could set that aside for herself down in this section. Now, one point that I just glossed over in the first one was normally you'd see me put her fund money and his fund money here, but I'm operating under the assumption that from what she said in her application, he is contributing $700 per paycheck to the household expenses, and the rest, she said explicitly, is kind of kept back for some other things that he covers, like lawn care, groceries of his own, things like that. So I'm kind of writing this as though he's got fund money from his own side of things that are kind of kept with him. Okay? If you've been with me for a while, you know that I would recommend fully pooling resources, like fully joint, but I understand that that's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. It sounds like they've got a system going, but if they were my clients, I would say, hey, let's try going fully joint and seeing how that works out, especially because at this point, the retirement roadmap being 67, I think it's worth the conversation, but I know it's not for everybody. Fully joint is not for everybody. And I say fully joint, really, I mean, like all of this is joint, blocks 1 through 7, and then 8 is individual. So basically everything but block 8 is joint. That's the model. I call it the 95% joint model. That's what I really preach the most and what I coach against. That's what I use in my coaching. So just some extra tidbits there. So those are the 2 September budgets prepped. Now, next couple I've already done. So October 11th through the 24th. The income block is not going to change here with these budgets. Her take home and then his 700 contribution. We're not seeing anything new here. It's their fixed expenses plus their variable spending. Okay, notice how I'm budgeting the cushion every single time. In the event that they finish a budget and they don't use that cushion, there's 200 right there. If they don't end up needing it, that could go to the 529s. That could go towards the credit card. All right. Some things to think about. Still have 1,300 plus to work with. We've been doing $250 a check to the emergency fund. Let's keep it up. Very aggressive here. And if I'm not mistaken, that's it. They can do that. That card is gone at that point. Yeah. Okay, it was about 1,900 to begin with. Being really aggressive in September and October, that thing is gone. And the way that we stop turning to the credit card is by nourishing savings buckets, nourishing our emergency fund, okay, and budgeting and making sure that everything is captured here. If it's not, we run the risk of using our cards and getting in credit card trouble again. So great, it's cool to make a plan to pay it off, but then how do we stop turning to it? That's a big part of it. The typical Roth IRA contribution is there. And you're going to see that beginning in the next budget, we're going to start paying attention here, contributing more here. But for now, we've done the giving of 50 and a little bit to her. I prepped the next one, October 25th through November 7th. This block looks the same as it has. 250 the emergency fund. No more extra debt payments. All right. They're working down the Bank of America card, which is the other one, and they're going to have that paid off before interest becomes a factor. Okay. So I'm good with this, with how they're doing that. Bumping up the Roth IRA a little bit, up from 150 to 210. Would do more, but they have no home maintenance savings right now. They have no car maintenance savings right now. So that is something that has got to get more attention, those maintenance buckets. So 300 to home maintenance, getting a nice little push there. And then we've got her giving and a little bit of money just for her. November 8th through the 21st. Okay, I don't think I need to keep showing you the expenses block. Nothing changes here. Biweekly mortgage payment, bills, okay, variable spending. 250 the emergency fund, keeping that going. No need to pay extra towards debt. Technically, they're already doing that here with this hefty Bank of America card payment. We're going up from her typical 150 a paycheck to now 450 to the Roth IRA in just this one pay cycle. We're going to put a little bit into both the home maintenance and the car maintenance buckets in the next block. And here's where you see me introduce the 529s with $25 contributions each. I recognize that's not a lot. But like I mentioned in the beginning, when I was kind of giving you the lay of the land of what's going on with their money, their pace right now is retiring when she's 67. She's 41 right now. Okay, we want to hopefully get her retiring earlier. And it's just going to have to be something that she sits and they have conversations about what is it that we want to do here. Are we okay with retiring at 67 and like really, really beefing these up because one of her kids is 13? So maybe she's sitting there going, no, I really want that to be aggressive. I'm okay if I have to work till I'm 69 or whatever the case. That would influence the budget. You see how there's so many, personal finance is personal. A lot of it isn't, okay? A lot of it is the same for all of us. We all need an emergency fund, okay? We all got to be saving and investing to reach our goals. But there is a point where this becomes less of a science and more of an art and highly specific to the person, to the family. What is it that you value? What's a bigger priority? Some people want to be debt-free completely as soon as possible. If she said to me, my mortgage has to go, Miss Ma'am, I hear you. So we are going to switch some things up over here and prioritize extra mortgage payments. We make changes based on what we value and what's important to us, how we feel about even low interest debt, things like that. But I went ahead and wrote that in here. And again, individual spending money for her. He is already kind of keeping his back, and then he puts in the $700 at paycheck for the family. Okay, I think I did one more already prepped. This gets us into December here. Okay, expenses block. Standard stuff. Again, $250 here. No extra debt payments needed. We go even harder here with the emergency fund. Now we're up to $550. Keeping in mind that for 2024, the Roth IRA contribution limit is $7,000 at her age. So we want to make sure we don't exceed that. Okay. But because she hasn't been investing that $583 a month, which is what you would do to max it out every year, you do $583 a month. She hasn't been doing that January through August. So we can speed it up and do more here, and we're not going to hit the max based on the numbers that I crunched. Okay, savings. We won't do anything here on this one. Notice how it kind of fluctuates. That's pretty typical with biweekly budgeters. Sometimes you have a great savings pay cycle and then it has to slow down a little bit the next one, and you just kind of do that balancing act. The 529s are there again. Not crazy aggressive, but it will do something. It's just to have to emphasize here that her retirement, their retirement, is before the kids' schooling or the kids' futures. Okay? Just so we're not relying on our kids when we're retirement age, and then a little bit for her. So because of time, and you guys have been staying with me, you guys are awesome. I am going to show you the Google sheet for December to show you how things change for December. This is the botanical version of the Google sheet. I have to turn the light. This is the botanical version of the Google sheet. This is where I prepped all their things, and that's why I didn't have to do any math myself. I just prep it in the Google sheet. Here's their money calendar for December. Okay, it's her paydays. Okay, as we get into December, here is what starts to shift. So it's already been a couple months now that the Chase card is gone. We're still doing $250 each time to the emergency fund. Accelerating, like adding more to the Roth IRA. Home maintenance is getting attention. The 529s are being built. And here's what I did here. I basically budgeted December down to try to see if I could get to the point where I have a consistent surplus every budget that would represent her upping her 401k contributions. Because she's going to get to the point in 2025 where she can max out the Roth, and you'll be penalized if you over-contribute. So the next thing, she's also, this isn't even incorporated here, but she's maxing out the HSA, okay, which is a triple tax advantage account. Absolutely splendid. She's doing that. So let's position this to show, hey, you can absolutely up the YouTube side can't see this. You can absolutely up your retirement contributions in your 401k. So going into her pay portal, making those adjustments, because we're starting to see, we're at the bottom line, that additional money is there. That's probably going to reach beyond the Roth IRA limits. And so then we can look at the 401k again and trying to get to the point where we're maxing out the 401k as well. So when we look at this, let me see here, an extra 300 plus another 700. I'm going to take you to the retirement tab now, because that's what my goal here is to show you kind of where things stand when they start and then how we're able to adjust. So give me just a second. Putting some numbers here on the retirement tab. They're currently investing $1,500. Can we get them to retire earlier 60s with these numbers? So let's try. So here, I'll show you what I'm doing. I just know that this tab can be a little overwhelming without full. I'm doing some scenario testing in the Google Sheet of, I know that beginning in 2025, investing $2,200 a month should be quite comfortable. But I'm just crunching some numbers here to see if we're talking a life expectancy of 85. And again, this is based on having $6,000 a month pre-tax until she's 85. So you can put these test numbers in here. And I find this to be helpful because our investing habits change over time. Our kids stop going to daycare and it opens up funds. Kids move out, opens up funds, obviously. So I'm just bumping up one by one until I can see. We're starting to get closer here. So going from her retiring at 67, just paying off that credit card fast and being very intentional with increasing investing dollars, not necessarily sacrificing. Like, she can still grow that vacation savings bucket. She can still grow her maintenance bucket. Her emergency fund's going to be fine. But just making those tweaks to the budget, shaving a few years off. Okay. And again, if she's like, look, I don't mind working until my late 60s. I want to work like that. Then the dollars that I've been putting extra towards her 401k and towards her Roth, those can go into 529s. They absolutely can. That becomes a preference. That becomes a more personal conversation, one-on-one, of what's the priority, what matters most. All right, let me zoom out a little bit. So we walked through, you saw me prep the landscape a little bit with their debt snapshot, with their master bill list, calculating their emergency fund goals. And that helps us to determine what is appropriate in their budget. Okay, you can't just sit down at a template and start filling it out. There's just a lot of awareness that we have to have before we can get started. And that's what these initial pages in the planner are for. Getting everything out there. Okay, savings buckets. And then we jumped into budgeting for September, getting the credit card paid off quick. As we got into October, paid that thing off, done, and we can increase the investing dollars. So going from $1,500 a month invested to $2,200 a month invested as we begin the new year, very, very manageable. It's just about being intentional and following a template or a plan that cuts out the guesswork. You don't have to wonder, well, what do I do next? Where should my money go next? The template is already designed with, short-term fulfillment and long-term success. Both of those things are there. All right, I'm very big on not putting deprivation at the helm of a financial strategy. Deprivation is not a strategy. If we just cut everything and we only live in blocks 1, 2, and 3 forever, yeah, you'll become a millionaire, but you won't. I guess I should say blocks 1 through 4 because investing is block 4. Yeah, we could live on this page for years and years and years and years, but would you be a happy millionaire? Probably not. You'd probably be burnt out, tired, resentful. All right, so this was episode 2 of Millionaire in the Making. I hope you all are enjoying this series. Don't forget, if you're just now tuning in, scroll up in the Instagram live comments to find the word that I shared, just a single word. DM me that word after the live for a chance to win a copy of this Google Sheet that you see me pulling in and out. This is my baby. Okay, spent a lot of time building this, but a copy of this, it's a full year of budgets, pretty much pre-built for you once you drop all of your numbers on the setup tab. For a chance to win that, DM me that word. If you want to win a $100 gift card, comment once this video is on my feed. Comment below that video with a goal that you have by the end of the year, and you'll be entered to win a $100 gift card to be announced, winner to be announced on October 1st. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love doing these live. I'll try to do as much of these live as I can. Hope you found it helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.